This video is all about my Excel budget tracker. I'll chat about its features and then I'll finish off with some instructions. The tracker is available in my Etsy store in 5 different colours, but if you prefer a different colour, just let me know. And this is what it looks like. There are some detailed instructions, but hopefully this video will also help with that. There is a net worth snapshot that can be used on its own, and then the dashboard that shows the data that you input with your transactions. You can also track your goals that is also separate and can be used just on its own. And then we have the categories tab that allows you to have as many categories as you wish for your income and expenses. And then there is the data entry tab where the fun begins, where you enter in all of your transactions. So this is a closer look at the net worth snapshot. It tracks your net worth over the year. You input your liabilities and your assets. I particularly like how it shows the monthly gain or loss. And this is what the financial goals tracker looks like. I find it really motivating to see my goals like this. You can type in what you want your 4 goals to be for the year. And of course, don't forget to like this video if you are enjoying it so far. And each month for your goals, you simply add in how much you've contributed to each. This is the categories tab. There is even more room to add more categories than this if you need. And this is where you'll add in all of your data if it's an expense or income. Don't worry, I'll go through the instructions at the end of this video. And this is a closer look at the dashboard. Don't forget you can zoom in or out depending on how big you want it to be. Oops, I think I went a bit crazy on the zoom there. So it does show your top 5 expenses, your annual expenses, your savings, your cost of living, and then your savings rate as well. And this is a closer look at the top 5 expenses graph. I like to look at the top 5 expenses because most of the time that's where the most wiggle room is to make some changes. And then all of the expenses are also broken down into a column graph. And your savings will also be shown as a column graph as well. And again, don't worry if this is too much purple for you. I do have this available in other colours. And I do like to track our cost of living. This makes sure that we're not letting lifestyle inflation take over. And knowing how much we spend each year is really important for chasing financial independence. And then it also shows your savings rate, which is another important metric for financial independence. Okay, so let's get into the instructions now for some of you who may have purchased it already, or for some of you who just want to see how easy to use it is. Before you start, it's always a good idea to create a blank copy of the spreadsheet that you can come back to in case you ever make an irreversible mistake. Plus, you will use it in the following calendar year and won't have to delete the data you've inputted for the current year. When you open the spreadsheet, you'll be asked if you want to enable or disable macros. The spreadsheet will work without macros. If you do choose not to enable macros, you'll just need to refresh the data on the dashboard manually. Don't worry, it's pretty easy to do and I will explain how to do so. The first step is to input all of your categories. This includes your income sources, the expense categories that you want to include, your assets, your liabilities, and your cost of living goal. Here I've typed in my income sources, which are my income, my husband's income, YouTube income, and tax refunds. Then I type in some example expense categories, which were mortgage, food, childcare, insurance, bill, gym, non-essentials, holidays. Then our assets for the net worth tracker, which are our shares, our retirement accounts, our emergency fund, and our home value. Then I added in our liabilities, which are our mortgage and our investment loans. And then in the last box, you type in your cost of living goal. This is the annual amount that you would like your expenses to be. Step 2. The financial goals tab is separate from the other data and can be completed at any time. You just need to determine what your 4 goals for the year are going to be. So you type your goal into where it says, type your goal here. And one of my goals is to save $55,000. So then in the amount needed, I just type in that amount into the cell. And then each month, you simply type in how much you've added to each of your goals each month. And then the graph will automatically show your progress to these goals in this visual format. Then the next step is to add in your net worth data. This is all your assets and liabilities. Don't forget that if it's a liability, to type it as a negative. For example, negative $25,000. On the table, you select from the drop-down menu if it is an asset or a liability. Then in the description, you also use the drop-down box to select the description. I've included December so that you're able to see what your gain or loss is for January. Remember, these are the assets and liabilities that you entered into the Categories tab. And as I mentioned earlier, don't forget to type the liabilities as a negative. And then the graph will automatically fill in for you, which we have already seen earlier in the video. Step 4, in the Data Entry tab, you enter all of your transactions, including your income for the month and all of your expenses. You might want to input this data daily, weekly, or at the end of the month. So for the data entry, you can type in the date, but that's not necessary. I like to do this though because sometimes I need to check if I've imported a particular expense or not, because sometimes I forget if I have. Then you choose the month from the drop-down arrow, and that is important. And then you choose the category and the subcategory using the drop-down menu too. And again, these are the categories that you imported back in the Categories tab, so if one's not there that you want to be there, you need to go back and type it in. Then you type the amount in the debit or credit column. If it was an income source, it goes into the credit column, and then if it is an expense, it goes into the debit column. Step 5, now the dashboard is ready to use. The dashboard is a summary of all the data you have imported. You can click on the months you want to see or every month to see the data for the year. Remember, if you disabled macros, you'll need to refresh the data each time you import new data. You do this by going up top and pressing on Data and then Refresh All. So then on the dashboard, you can just choose the month that you want to see the data for, or then you can choose a few months or the 12 months to see the annual review. And don't forget, you can zoom in or out depending on how big you want it to be. And I also wanted to let you know I do have a financial independence tracker available in my Etsy store too. This tracker will give you your progress to FI, including lean FIRE, standard FIRE, and fat FIRE. It will also give you your portfolio projections over the next 20 years based on your chosen rate of return. I generally like to use a 7% estimated rate of return. It also gives you your FI crossover point. Once the dotted line meets or passes the coloured lines down the bottom, that is your FI crossover point. That means your expenses have met your investment returns. And this is based on the 3 and 4% safe withdrawal rate. And I also have a dividend tracker in the Etsy store. This tracker is more of a projection of your income than a way to track dividend payments. If you enter in your units held and the dividends per share, the tracker will predict what your income will be. It can be done as a record of payments, but you'd need to put in 1 for the units and then type the total payment into the month column. This tracker will show you your expenses covered by dividends, the estimated monthly dividends that are coming in, and if you have the past data, you'll also be able to see your annual dividend income over time. I use ShareSite to go back and work out what my dividends are. Super easy. And if you want to see how we've used our financial independence tracker to work out our early retirement plan, you might want to check out this video next. Thanks for listening. Don't forget you can also find me on Instagram and Facebook. See you next week.